Hello guys, welcome to the Swift Programming Language Partial Beginner videos. In this video, we will be looking at control flows. The Swift Programming Language provides a variety of control flow statements, like the while loop to execute set of instructions if certain conditions are met. It also provides if, switch, guard to execute different branches of our code. We also have break and continue, defer, which helps us to transfer the flow of execution in our code. It also gives us the for loop to iterate over an arrays or sets or dictionaries. In this video, we will be looking at for loops, while loops. We also consider some conditional statements as well as control transfer statements. Without further ado, let's move into S code. Now, we are going to start with for loops. The for loops helps us to iterate over a sequence of collections such as range, arrays, sets, characters in a string. The for loop can be used to iterate over any collection, including our custom type, as long as those types conform to the sequence protocols. Now let's look at this example. Let's say we have let name be assigned to Matthew. Now to use for loop, we do this. We do for characters in name. Print character. Now let's print this to the console and see what we have. Now we can now see that this name was printed. The characters of this name was printed to the console one by one. Just like the definition we mentioned, we can also use this for range. And let's look at this. Let's say we have for I in 1 to 5. Print. Let me do a bit of string interpolation there. Items backslash hi. Let's print this to the console and see what we have. Now we can also we have item 1, item 2, item 3 printed to the console within that range. So we can also do this for our arrays, string, and we can check the video where we talk about collection. We can see we did this over there. Now let's move to while loop. The while loop performs a set of statements until certain condition is met. This can be used when the number of iteration isn't known at the start of iteration. So in Swift, we have two types of while loops. We have the while loops, which evaluates its condition at the start of the loop. And we also have the repeat while loop, which evaluates its condition at the end of the loop. That is, with repeat while loop, the loop will evaluate for at least once. Now let's look at this. Let's say we have var current score let's assign this to 0. Let's get another variable. Let's call this final score. Let's assign this to 50. So now to use the while loop, we say use the while keyword. We say while the expression which wants to give us back boolean. So we say current score is less than final score. Then curly brace. Then let's add to the current score. Let's add 5 to the current score. So let me make it 15, the current score. So now let's print the current score to the console. Int current score. Before then, I want to comment out this for loop. Let me for in loop so that we can have a clear console. Now let's run this. And now we can see we have 60. Now to check whether for in loop, the condition for for in loop, while loop, sorry, evaluate before at the start of the loop. Let's check this out. Let me declare on that variable. Let's say variable var score state, and let me assign this to false, for example, just to false. So let's take out this expression. Let me just replace it with score state. Let's run this. We should have 0 in our console. Now you can see we have 0 in our console because for while loop, this condition must first be evaluated before the statement is executed. First statement inside the block is executed. But for while loop, for example, while loop, sorry, repeated while loop. Now let's look at repeat while loop. Repeat let's open our curly brace. Current score plus 15 while score states. Now, if we look at our console, we can see that we have 15, even though our expression is already give us false. The reason why was because the while loop must at least run at least once before it evaluates the expression. Now let's look at conditional statement. In Swift, we have two condition statements. And the conditional statement help us to differentiate, help us to execute different branches of the program based on whether certain conditions are met. The Swift programming language provides two ways for us to add conditional statements to our code. We have the if statement and the switch statement. Now let's look at this example for with if statement, for example. Let's declare this variable. Let's call it var. Let me just call this score. And let me assign this to 50, or let's say 35. Now, to use an if statement, we put if keyword, then the expression will follow, which is, in this case, I want to say score. I'll check if score is less than 50. Then the block of, let's open the curly brace, else. So if this expression is returned false, then the else block will be evaluated. So for this, let's say print. Let's say keep it up. And for this, let's say print. Not good enough. Oh, let me switch this over. Let me put this one not good enough. Not good enough here. So this time say keep it up. Now let me print this to console. Now we can see not good enough. So for this now, this block, this branch of code was what executed because the score is less than 50, give us true. So the first branch of code is executed. Now let's increase this score, let's call it 55. With this now, we should now have keep it up, which indicate that this is now false. The player scores is higher than 50. Now, another conditional statement we have in Swift is the switch case. And to work with switch case, what we do is this. We type switch, the value to be evaluated here, let's call it score. Let's use the score. Then we open our curly brace. Then we define different cases. In this example, I wanted to use range as my case. So let's say case 1 to 40. So if the player score between 1 to 40, we want this case block to be executed. Here I'm just going to say print also wanted to have another case. Let's say case 140 to 50. Colon, then our case block. What do we want to tell them here? Let's say print you are just below average. Now let's say case, and let's look at another case between 50 to 100 case 50 to 100. To 100, let's say, congratulations, you passed. Now, switch has to be exhaustive, so we need to provide a default case here that will say default case. And in this default, we can print no match found. That is, none of the cases matches the scores which we provided. Now let's print this to the console. Let's see what we have. So our score is 55. Let's see what this gives to us. Now you can see it says congratulations, you passed. So for this now we can see this case block was what was executed. The case block between 50 to 100 was what was executed. And if our, let's say for example now we have, let's say this one is 45 now, another block of code will be executed. So you are just below average, it's executed. Now let's also look further. So sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we have multiple cases, but we wanted to run the same block case for them. In this, you can do what we call compound casing for switch statements. So now for this, let me declare two variables to see that, let's say, let some numbers, in this case, let us assign this to just an even number, let me say 2. Now, switch some numbers, then I'll call it brace. Now let's define a compound case. Let's say for 0, 2, 4, 3, 6. Want to print, let's print. This is an even number. Now what will happen is that it's going to for case for the case where this number which we wanted to evaluate is 0 or 2 or 4, is going to execute this case block. Let me define another case for the whole numbers. Let's say case. I'll say 1, 3, 5, and stop at 7. Let's print this to the console. So this is an odd number. And now I'm going to print default. Let's indicate our default. And let's print no case found, no match found to the console. No match found. So now if this number is not any of these cases we provided, it's going to execute the default condition. And if it's any of this number, let's say 2, 4, or 3, or it's going to give us. So let's see what we have here. Let's print this to the console. Now we can see we have, this is an even number. Also, if I change this number now to, let's say, number that does not exist in the case we provide, we should have no match found. You can see no match found. Now, let's move to value binding. And that's on that case. We are still on that case, value binding. A switch case can name the value or the value it matches to a temporary constant, which can be used in the body of the case. Let's look at this example. Look at this expression, this simple expression. Let's say we have a variable called coordinates. Let's assign this to a tuple. Make this a tuple. So it's representing longitude and latitude. Now let's declare a switch statement. Switch coordinates. So let's say case let's declare a constant that we match that expression to. So for this now we can say let long and then comma. Let me just copy this coordinate here. Then we can now put inside. You can put the column inside the case block. Now we can say print the longitude let's just put the log. So now what happened is that the value of this here will be matched to this variable. That way we can access that variable inside our case block. To that constant, sorry. Let me declare another case. Just use this to happen fast. This let me just 0. Yeah, sorry, 0. And then let's declare that let's. So let me also print this. The latitude is lat. And the final, let's do this for final case. Final case. So for this, I'm going to match those two of them to the constants. So I'm going to say lat long. Let me put this as let. For this, let me just print the coordinates are long and lat. So let's provide our default case, which we must, because switch case is exhaustive. So let us print this. Again, let me print no match found to the console. Now let's run this and see what we have. Now we cannot see that. You can see that the longitude is the longitude, and then we have the longitude printed to the console. So we've matched this the value of this thing to this constant which we declared, and this constant can only be used within the case block itself. Now let's move to the control transfer statement. The control transfer statement changes the order in which our code is executed. In Swift, we have the following control statement. We have continue. The continue tells the loop to stop while it's doing what it's doing, and it starts from the next iteration. Now let's look at this example. Continue. For continue. Let's declare a variable called phrase. Var phrase. And let's say hello all. First, you have a fantastic experience. Again, let me declare another variable. Let me just call this consonant. And let me assign it to an empty string. Also, let's declare an array of characters that we wanted to remove from this phrase. Let's say, let's characters to remove. Let's assign this. Let's declare the type here. Let's say an array square brace of characters. And let's assign this. So let's say we have A, E, I, U. Also provide an empty string there, so that we can also remove this spacing from our list. Oh, sorry, I put calendar instead of characters. Now, let's say let's look towards, let's say for ch for characters in phrase, we will now check if any of these characters wanted to exclude is part of the characters. Then we continue so that it should go to the next iteration. So that way we remove all our vowels and spacing out of the characters of the phrase. So let's say if character to remove dot contains, the contains method contains ch, which is the characters. Then we want this to continue. Then outside you can say consonant dot append, so that we can take all the consonant consonant character out of it. Let's append ch. Now let's print consonant to the console. Let's print the consonant variable. Print consonant. Let's run this and see what we have. And now we can now see that we only have all the consonant letter in this phrase expression. So each time this condition is true, it's going to continue. So it's not going to get append. It's going to go to the next iteration. That's what continue does. So it changes the order of our flow, or the flow of how the code works. For break, if we put break here, after the first time the condition is true, it's going to completely abandon the loop. So let's see this now. Let's take break here. So we can see we only have H, because immediately after H we have E. So this condition becomes true, and then the break condition is executed, and then the loop stops completely. Now let's look at defer. Defer control when a line of code is executed. So it's what defer does is that it's going to control when a line of code or an expression or a statement is executed. We can use this to execute a line of code that will be executed when the program reaches the end of its current scope. So, for example, the end of the current scope of this foreign loop where we have phrase is going to be at the end of this. And if we define more than one block, the last one will be executed first. Now, let's look at this example, or this simple expression. Let's say we have, let me declare another variable. Let's say bar temperature. Let me just assign this to some numbers. Let's say for 5. And then I say if temperature is less than 90, now let's put the differ here. Let's say differ. Another to do it. Then we open a curly brace. Then put our statement here. So this, let me just say print temperature. Now again here, let's now add to the temperature. Let's temperature plus 5. Now let's print the temperature again. Let's print this print temperature. Now let's run this and see what we have. So with the first statement, now what will happen is that this expression, this addition of temperature will first be executed, and then it's going to print it. So let me remove this print. This is not necessary. So instead of the code to run from top like this, it's going to all other statements within this block of code will be executed. Then the default block will be the last one to run. So let's run this. So we can now see we have 50 because the temperature 5 was added to temperature before we print it. Now let's say we have two default statements in here. We default 2 blocks. Let me just call this now. Let me just give this. Let me just turn this to string. Now let's print this to the console. Just like as I said earlier, if you have two default block of code, the first one will be the last one to run. So we can see here now we have temperature printing to the console first, and then the 50 is run last after all this. So this is very useful, in particular when we wanted to clean up spaces maybe after a particular action in our code and stuff. So guys, this is the end of this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, and you can also click the notification bell so that whenever I release a new video, you get the notification. Thank you. See you in the next video.